how's it going? Welcome to Rant and Chill, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mr. Deadman, and with us here tonight is our guest, Derick Miller. How are you doing, Mr. Miller?
Hey, how's it going? It's been a while.
It has been.
I was just thinking of you the other day. I was flipping around on YouTube. I was checking out some of your stuff, and I'm like, wow, man, I hadn't heard from Deadman in a long time, man. He must not be close to that bottom of the barrel guest list there. And then, bam, there you are. You popped right up. I just, I've only got one wish left, and I guess I'm gonna have to, wish the genie free.
Yeah, wish him free because you can't wish for more wishes, right? But yeah. A lot has changed, man. A lot has changed. Like, things have happened since then,
We have survived a pandemic.
Yeah.
So far.
So far.
Right.
Man, what have you been up to? So, like, if people don't know, for those who don't know, you are a horror author. What else do you do?
Right. Yes. Well, I mean, a lot of your audience is probably going to know me from when I attempted to derail the Splatter Western franchise with Splatter Western number 5, Starving Zoe. You either love it or you don't. But I'm also the senior writer, junior producer for Atua Productions here in Dallas. I am the co-host of the American Justice podcast. That thing's kicking ass and taking names. And I'm still doing some writing here and there, working on actually a Starving Zoe sequel right about now. I know you just lost about half your people right there.
It's all right.
And then I'm working on a fantasy novel, my first fantasy novel. So not necessarily a full departure from horror, but just going to try something new. See, just throw some shit against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, makes sense. Sometimes you have to do that.
Absolutely.
Now, that podcast you mentioned, is it like a true crime podcast? What is that?
It's a true crime podcast that focuses on people that we believe are wrong. Well, the first 2 seasons were people that we believe are wrongfully accused, people that are currently incarcerated, and we don't believe that they should be. We've done deep dives into hundreds of thousands of pages of court documents and interviews. Season 1 was the infamous in these parts. I live in Dallas. The Brandon Woodruff double homicide from 2005. They actually just did an ABC 2020 episode on that case. We popped up on national TV for a couple of seconds. That was pretty cool. I got to, they say the camera adds 10 pounds. It's a total fucking lie, man. The camera adds 50 easily.
Yeah.
The second season was a case out of Wisconsin, Vincent Cozy murder case. We believe he is wrongfully incarcerated as well. This season, we're knee-deep in the 3rd season. We're working on well-known, famous cases where people have been exonerated, like accused, convicted, incarcerated, and then later down the road, new evidence or DNA evidence was tested, and after being in prison for 15, 20 years, what have you, they've been released. We've done 10 of those episodes this season. So
this sounds very interesting.
Probably start.
Yeah, I mean, true crime podcasts are still on fire, right? Are they still on fire? They're so good.
It is growing by leaps and bounds. We're averaging about 10,000 downloads a month right now.
Oh, that's nice. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I need to shift gears. Talk true crime. But this podcast, this episode, we're talking about Star Wars. How Star Wars sucks. It's awful.
Oh,
horrible. All those movies. All of them. Original trilogy, prequels, new trilogy, garbage.
I have really vivid memories of being, what the fuck was I, about 5 years old? 5 years old, sitting in a lawn chair in the back of an El Camino at a drive-in on opening night of the original Star Wars. I go all the way back to the beginning, baby. I'm 48 years old, and I've seen them all in the theaters, opening night, multiple times. Own them all. I truly believe there is no such thing as a bad Star Wars movie. There are just some that are better than others. And that's my stance right there.
Well, That's brave of you. That there's wait. Let me understand. Your stance is there's not a single bad Star Wars movie.
No, there's not a bad Star Wars movie. There are just some that are better than others.
Not even Phantom Menace.
Nope, not even Phantom Menace. As a matter of fact, oh man, I should have wrote this down. About once a month, I actually post to my social media the order that I think the movie should go from like best to worst, and it actually changes from month to month. I mean, I was sitting on a treadmill. I was on a treadmill a couple of weeks ago. I'm trying to get back in shape, and I'm about to go to Cancun. I don't want to walk out on the beach looking like Jabba. So I was on a treadmill the other day, and I was.
But Jabba's king, though. Jabba's a crime lord. I mean, I wouldn't mind looking like Jabba looks the way he does, and he gets Princess Leia. Well, I mean, she's kind of a slave.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I mean, I would have loved to have had Carrie Fisher in 1983 sitting on me in a copper bikini. But
yeah,
I rewatched Solo the other day on a treadmill, and it wasn't just because I was starting to black out from working out. I mean, I was actually enjoying the film. It's once you like silence the internet, once you silence like the toxic fandom, the movies that everybody's been hating on, they're not bad.
Well, we're gonna get into that, and I think we're starting now. We'll go and start with the Phantom Menace here. I was going to start with the original trilogy because I have fond memories of Star Wars too. Don't get me wrong. Some of my favorite games are Star Wars. I will watch a Star Wars movie every now and then, but my position is they're not good movies. Like they're not like good quality movies. They're popcorn flicks at best. At worst, they're like really paint by numbers cinematography made for babies, made for children, that people just enjoy. It's easy. It's like we'll get into that. But
how can you say that they're made for children? It's almost like George Lucas with the prequels. George Lucas predicted our future. We're living the prequels right now. I mean, can you? I imagined it during the end of Trump's presidency. I was just waiting for him to stand up and put a hood over his head from his robe and ignite his lightsaber, man. We are living the prequels right now. Well, everybody bitched and complained in the early 2000s that it was way too political. And then here we are 15 years down the road. Everybody on social media thinks they're some kind of damn political expert. What were they complaining about? We turned into the prequels.
Well, the reason why I say it's made for kids is because, I mean, you really have, I mean, it's cookie cutter. It's very simple. You have this very simple story. Oh, who's the villain? Oh, it's the guy wearing all black. That's the bad guy right there, the black-looking robot guy.
But all his minions are white.
Oh, but they have the skull masks.
The stormtroopers are all white. Yeah, they do. I saw a car the other day that in my rear view mirror and the front grille looked just like a stormtrooper helmet. I was like, man, they did that on purpose.
Yeah, they did. 100%.
I love the Phantom Menace. As one of the greatest lightsaber duels in the entire saga. It has the best like music score in the entire saga. The Duel of the Fates, man. That Man,
I mean, music-wise, you can't touch it. Music-wise, Star Wars is fine. Yeah. I mean,
John Williams is a god.
I mean, if it wasn't for the music, I mean, what would Star Wars be if it wasn't for John Williams? Honestly.
Yeah, because I mean, if you ever watched it with the volume down, it's just totally not the same. And man, yeah, John Williams is a god. And the first time I saw the Phantom Menace, first of all, I saw the Phantom Menace 13 times in a theater.
That's way too many times there, man. But okay.
I was in the Army. I was stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona. What the hell else was I gonna do? I just knew that let's see, Return of the Jedi, I believe off the top of my head, was 1983, and then we got the special editions of the original trilogy 1996. So we hadn't had any new Star Wars material other than comics, books, video games, which hardly any of that crap is canon now that Disney has taken over. But we haven't had any new Star Wars since 1983, and here it was 1999. They marketed the hell out of that film, man. It was everywhere. It was on soda, it was on potato chips, lunch boxes, books, you name it. It was all there, and I avoided every single bit of it. I mean, we're talking the early days of the internet. I mean, the internet was there, but it wasn't readily available. It is now for spoilers and trailers. And I mean, when I did see the trailer, it took it like 2 hours to download. So over
dial-up speed, yeah.
Yeah, and I was in communications. That's what I did in the Army, and it still took 2 hours to download over like a military connection.
Well, I tried to rewatch Phantom Menace. Okay, like literally last week with my son, who was like 8, and when I did, even my son was like, "Dad, that thing's like edited in." Of course, you know what I'm talking about, like Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
The moment Jar Jar Binks comes on, it's like, oh my god. He's like, there's better stuff on YouTube. I'm like, yeah, there is.
Yeah,
it was
but, I mean,
painful. It was hard to get through. That's the problem with Phantom Menace and the prequels, that relied so heavily on CGI that, like, I don't think they age well. Especially Phantom Menace. I don't see how it ages well at all. It's like the practical effects of the original trilogy are pretty good. They still
they still. I mean, you can see some flaws in the practical effects. You can see some flaws in the CGI from the prequels. But when we were watching it in 1999, we didn't give a shit. That was amazing. I mean, have you showed your son the original Jurassic Park? I mean, it holds up just as well. It's you can kind of tell. Okay, now I just watched Jurassic World Dominion a couple of weeks ago, and the special effects in that film are just far superior to what we had when the original Jurassic Park came out. But I remember sitting in the theater in 1993 when Jurassic Park came out, and just blown away.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen anything like it. You look at Terminator 2 with the T-1000 when that came out. I'm going back to that mindset, sitting in a theater in the 90s, just having my mind blown. And yeah, Jar Jar Binks now not quite that good with the special effects, but Ahmed Best.
I kind of
Best in
remember
a weird.
It might be like, we're kind of different ages here, but I remember I was in high school when I believe when Phantom Menace came out, and even we were like, Jar Jar Binks, what the hell? What were they thinking? What were they thinking was the idea with that? Like it was like the character was like so weird, off-putting. Like it was a clown. The CGI looked weird, but
it's funny that you say that, because there was a novel that was released a few years ago where you actually catch up with Jar Jar Binks in later on down the road, and Jar Jar Binks has become like a street performer that they like throw shit at him because I mean, yeah, he's like a goofy fucker in episode 1, which, and I'll say something else too. I avoided all spoilers when episode 1 released. They bombarded you with marketing, and I wouldn't look at any of it. I wouldn't look at books. I wouldn't look at anything. And my wife at the time, God rest her smile, she turned out to be a meth freak. That was a tooth joke. All the dentists in the audience would have loved it. She bought me a calendar. So she gives
really good gum jobs, huh?
Yeah, I bet she does. Yeah, I bet she does. I had someone tell me that she was the prettiest thing in the trailer park once, and I'm like, that's like saying you're the shiniest turd in the yard, dude. But she bought me a calendar, and it was a Star Wars calendar, and it just had different scenes from the movie. It didn't really explain anything, but I saw Jar Jar Binks on that calendar, and I'm like, and it wasn't Jar Jar with like some goofy ass smile or something. It was just Jar Jar, and I'm like, man, I bet that fucker's a badass. I imagined him having like some deep alien voice or something, because in the original trilogy, all the aliens spoke a different language.
Yeah.
And everything was subtitled. And then when the prequels came out, here I'm supposed to be defending Star Wars.
Yeah.
And here I am starting to talk shit.
That's what the prequels do. I'm just going to let you talk. That's what the prequels do.
Almost everyone spoke English. All the aliens spoke English instead of subtitles. I don't know why that is. I just imagine Jar Jar Binks with like just a deeper like alien voice, and I'm like, okay, well that's cool. And then when the first time he spoke on screen, he's like, "Misa called Jar Jar Binks, Misa your humble servant."
Yeah,
and
I couldn't even emulate that. If I tried, it would sound racist. But
yeah, I'm like, what kind of racist bullshit did I just hear? But I just Jar Jar Binks was necessary.
I mean, let's be
Jar Jar
honest. Was George Lucas even trying? Then was he trying to create a character so off-putting that? What I'm asking, was it a test? Was it a test to be like, look, guys, I could throw the most ridiculous character in there, and they're still gonna love this. They're still gonna buy tickets or buy merchandise. They love Star Wars so much. I can do it.
Okay, I love the prequels. The prequels are, that's my son's era. And my son right now is currently serving the Army. He's 21 years old, living in Hawaii. I got the desert, he got Hawaii. I don't get it. But his name on his birth certificate is Anakin. Anakin Miller is his name. And
what if he becomes Darth Vader?
He already is, man. He already is.
Oh,
he's all kids grow up to be dicks. But I waited till his mother was asleep, and I filled out his name on the birth certificate. So that's kind of my bad. It's not the reason we got divorced, but I'm sure it's in the top fucking 5.
Damn.
But
Star Wars got you divorced?
No.
Just
Adultery got me divorced. Adultery got me divorced. I'm sure Star Wars kind of pushed it there.
Okay.
Adultery and drugs got me divorced. Star Wars kind of pushed it there, I'm sure. But no, the prequels. I mean, you needed a fall guy, and Jar Jar Binks was the fall guy. And if you go from the Phantom Menace, where he's the comedy relief, in between some really badass battle scenes. I mean, between the pod race. I mean, come on, man. How old is that movie now? It came out in 1999.
It's pretty
23
old,
years old.
But
it's 23 years old, and the video game on the Nintendo 64, the Episode 1 Racer, is still the fucking bomb to this day. Great game. Like, I played it so much, like I just first place on all the tracks on the Nintendo 64. I mean, you even had to have the expansion pack in the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Star Wars games are great. I mean, I wouldn't be able to go after Star Wars games. Dark Forces, the original, is still one of my favorite first-person shooters.
Oh yeah.
And it only took one person. It only took one person to take the Death Star plans, and it was Kyle Katarn. Okay, that's it. They had to make it non-canon, so they make a Rogue One. What was that movie called? Rogue One.
Rogue One.
Yeah.
Rogue One. Rogue One is less of a Star Wars movie, and it's like more along the lines of Saving Private Ryan in space. But we'll get there. We're still talking prequels.
Yeah, we're still talking prequels. See, I like that you said it's your son's movie. Your son enjoyed it. I tried to show my son it, and we didn't get halfway through the movie. We ended up turning off and changing to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is fine because they're supposed to look at it in it's cartoons in the real world, whatever.
Right.
It's kind of it's cool.
Right.
That was a cool movie. Kind of forgot how there's certain jokes in Who Framed Roger Rabbit that kind of go both ways, go over the kid's head, and the adults totally understand. Like when Jessica Rabbit was playing patty cake with the guy. He was like, "Holy shit! What? Holy hell! What? Oh no, they're literally playing patty cake. Oh, okay, that's right."
Not that I want to blow Disney any more than we probably already are before this podcast is over. But have you seen the Chippendales Rescue Ranger movie?
No, I have.
One that it is right along the lines of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And just put all your expectations aside. You're gonna laugh your ass off.
All right, I'll check it out. Okay, so
Yeah,
setting aside Jar Jar Binks and the CGI, even the dialogue itself is very difficult to sit through.
Yeah, and as a writer, I listen to a lot of that dialogue. But okay, here we go. And I've said this from the very beginning. The prequels were a different age. I think of the prequels as more of along the lines of medieval times when your royalty spoke more proper. And then the original trilogy is more along the lines of the Industrial Revolution. I haven't thought about the sequel trilogy enough to try and put that into a category, but I think of the prequel trilogy as more like colonial, medieval. The knights, they were just more articulate. Everything was new. It was polished, and that's the way that I think of the prequels. You know, especially when you get into Attack of the Clones and you're talking about the dialogue between Anakin Skywalker and Padme. I mean, both of those characters. I mean, Hayden Christensen's a pretty damn good actor. I've seen him in things other than Star Wars. Natalie Portman, we all know, is a great actress. She's just blown everyone away in everything. I mean, I remember the first thing I ever saw her in was The Professional, and I got super excited when I found out she was going to be in Star Wars. But and not for the reasons that a lot of other people got excited.
That's right. I remember a website. Almost forgot about The Professional. Yeah. Okay.
Oh man, that's a great film. Go back and watch that one again. That one's. Although if you watch the director's cut, it gets a little weird.
I think I know what
that
you
director.
Mean. I think.
Yeah,
there was some weird relationship between the girl and the Leon.
Yeah. Okay. So stick to the theatrical cut, and you won't have to worry about the guy knocking at your door or anything. But the Phantom Menace, you know, the dialogue between Anakin and Padme, you know, people criticize that a lot. But you think back to when you were like a 16, 17-year-old kid and you get a chick alone for the first time. You think about some of the stupid shit you said. I know. I'm glad we didn't have cell phones back then, because chicks would have recorded some of the stupid shit I said. I mean, you know, we would have done anything to get those, you know, Levi Buttonfly 501 jeans to the floor, man.
Right.
We would have said anything. And, you know, everybody's, the dialogue's so corny. Look at the characters. I mean, look at the characters. Look at who they are. Look at their ages. Look at their experiences. No, man, they are 100% on par.
Speaking of Anakin and Padme, there's something that just crossed my mind now. So, Anakin's like a little child in the movie, right? How old is Padme?
In The Phantom Menace, he was 9 and she was 13 or 14.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there's a little bit of an age gap, but I mean, shit, I'm 48. I'm 48 and my wife is 31.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It comes around a certain point where it does get kind of weird when she's like 19 and he's like, you know, 16 or something. Yeah. Or that'd be kind of weird. But setting that aside, see, part of me wonders with the way the dialogue was in the prequels. I'm thinking the only way Lucas was able to get away with that and those movies be marketable was the fact that he had the original trilogy under his belt. If it wasn't for the original trilogy, I don't think the prequels, like, if Star Wars started off as the prequels, like if Phantom Menace was the debut Star Wars film, I don't think Star Wars would be it.
Lucas likes to have the public believe that he had these all written out. I mean, I'm sure he had them outlined, you know, from a writer's standpoint. I'm trying to look at this as something I would do. I'm sure, and what he has said is, you know, he kind of had outlines for all of this, and you know, he's like, okay, I'm going to make this portion of it, and if that works, I'll make this, and then if those work, then I'll go back and make this. But I don't think he had it written, so to speak. I think he kind of had it outlined. I think he kind of had a general idea of where he wanted it to go. But I mean, Lucas is only really responsible for A New Hope. He is, I mean, other than the prequels, of course, because was it Irvin Kershner directed Empire Strikes Back? Richard Marquand directed Return of the Jedi. I mean, George Lucas, you know, he helped with the writing and everything, but he only directed A New Hope. Now, he directed all of the prequels. But the problem, and I was going to say this earlier, the problem with George Lucas and the prequels is that he had an executive producer by, oh my God, what is his? I cannot remember his name. He became a producer at Lucasfilm during the special editions, and he was producer during the prequels as well. And people complain about Kathleen Kennedy right now, Lucasfilm with Disney. No, this guy was worse, and I can't not remember his name for the life of me, but he was a yes man. If you go and you watch any behind the scenes stuff with the prequels, I mean, he is basically tossing George Lucas's salad through the whole damn thing. Yes, George. Yes, George. Yes, George. He would let George get away with anything. And as a producer, sometimes you have to rope those fuckers in, man.
Sometimes you gotta say no.
Yes, you got to say no. And this guy, I wish I could think of his name so I could curse him right now.
That's okay, but he should have said no when he was like, let's gonna put in CGI Jabba the Hutt in episode 4. It's like, why? That dude, the special editions, I almost forgot about them. Like, I remember that original trilogy was great, but then they added in like CGI Jabba the Hutt. It's like, why? Why do we need that? Like it looks obviously fake. The practical effect looking Jabba the Hutt, that was fine. That was cool. You know, what they did in Return of the Jedi, cool. But just doing a CGI slug thing.
Google is free and in our pockets. His name was Rick McCallum. That was his name. He was the executive producer for Lucasfilm during the special editions and during the prequels, and he was a yes man.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he was. And I don't know what he's doing now, but good riddance. It's not like it matters. George Lucas didn't touch on any of this.
Well, going through the Star Wars movies on the Clone Wars, and like Clone Wars, I don't really remember that much. I remember the lightsaber battles, but it becomes a point to where like the lightsaber battles, they're like all theatrical and cinematic. Like they're not even trying to kill each other. They're just trying to hit the other lightsaber. They're not actually going for any death blows or anything. It's like, it looks cool. It's like medieval jousting, but it's not like, practical, realistic, like sword fighting, or because if they're really trying to kill each other, it shouldn't be that hard, especially when they have special Jedi powers.
I think Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is definitely the weakest of the entire saga. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, it's necessary. It's necessary to get where you're going, and that again was another problem that George Lucas had is he had a point he had to reach with A New Hope. He knew this is where he had to go. He had to make this meet up here, and I think he could have done that with a single film. Really, I don't think it needed an entire trilogy. It's kind of like, I don't know how big of a Lord of the Rings fan you are, but the Hobbit trilogy. The Hobbit is the shortest book that Tolkien ever wrote, I think.
Yeah, it could be one book. Could have been one movie. One movie.
Yeah, and they stretched it out into an entire trilogy using all these different appendices and unpublished works from Tolkien. And it's a horrible trilogy. I mean, you come off on the end of Lord of the Rings, which is one of the greatest cinematic trilogies of all time, and then they give us that. It hurts me to watch it, really. And I love The Hobbit. I love the Lord of the Rings. I grew up. Those are the only books in my entire life that I reread over and over when I was growing up, and just absolutely loved them. And I was like, my God, how are they going to turn this one book into 3 movies? Well, that's how they're going to do it. And it's all a piece of shit as far as I'm concerned. But we're not talking about Lord of the Rings. I could go off on Game of Thrones too. I could go off on Game of Thrones too, but we'll save that for another episode.
That's a whole other stream. Yeah, as far as the prequels go, the only one that I actually kind of liked was which one? Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. It's still not a good movie. Like, the story's kind of like, okay, kind of stupid, but it's the best of the prequel trilogy by far. The lightsaber duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan is legendary from where I come from. Yeah. I mean, it was spoken about in magazines and in books that are no longer canon. I mean, we knew from like the 80s that this fight happened between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and just we imagined it in our minds forever, and we couldn't wait until 2005 rolled around to see how it all went down. And I was not disappointed. I remember being on the edge of my seat at the end of Revenge of the Sith. And yeah, I mean, that scene is cool and all, but like even the acting alone in that movie is Revenge of the Sith the one where Anakin murders all those Jedi kids?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I went and saw Revenge of the Sith on opening night, and I had to buy tickets from a scalper in the parking lot. I had just gotten off work. I was working in law enforcement at the time. I was actually, jack of all trades, master of none. I was actually in my uniform.
Okay.
and I just got off work. I went to the theater, bought tickets from a scalper, and went to go see Revenge of the Sith. And I remember when those little kids walked up to him, and he's like, "Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do?" And he just like looks at him like, "Fuck you, kid," and lights his lightsaber. I stood up in the theater and yelled, "Yes!" But then they didn't show it. I thought for sure they were gonna.
You wanted
show
to
him
see the
hacking.
murder the kids?
Oh, I
That's
wanted
barbaric.
to see it. I want to see a rated R version of Revenge of the Sith.
Doesn't he
want.
see Padme after that too, or something? I mean, there's weird lines and stuff. Like it seems like no one really takes into account, dude. You just murdered a shit ton of kids. You murdered a whole class of kids. What's wrong with you?
Oh, we've all got secrets, man. We've all got secrets. We all have a past.
Oh God, yeah. So I mean, Lucas can't really write characters like, especially like romantic characters. He should have like not do that.
Yeah, he definitely should have shared the wealth. I mean, you got a lot of great authors out there that have written a lot of damn good Star Wars books over the years, and now Disney says, none of these are canon anymore. If you look at the Thrawn trilogy, which is I believe they were written in the early 90s. It's Heir to the Empire, The Last Command, and Dark Force Rising. They were written by Timothy Zahn.
Oh yeah, those were good. Those were good. I remember reading them.
Those should have been films. Those should have been films, and they should have been done while Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher were still, at a workable age. Those should have been films. George Lucas, he can write a story. He can write a story, but he cannot write characters. He cannot write dialogue. But there are
he can come up with characters.
I
mean, he has characters that are cool. Like here, I'm going to defend this too. Like, don't get me wrong. I like some of the Star Wars characters, Star Wars things. I have some Star Wars merch, but like they'll come up with a cool character like Luke or really Han Solo and Jabba the Hutt. But then they'll shit all over it. They'll shit all over it in ways that don't make any sense. Like Han Solo, when he's like a badass, he's like a cowboy, he's like like a bootlegger. I always thought he shot first in the cantina. He shot first because his life was being threatened. He shot first. He knew what was coming. But then in the special editions, they reworked it, made it seem like, oh no, he was shot at first, and then he shot back, and it's like that doesn't matter. Like he shot.
But then they changed it again in the DVD releases in the early 2000s to where they shot at the same time, and then at the Blu-ray release they changed it yet again. I mean, this, it's as an art. George Lucas is an artist. It's his prerogative. It's his baby. It's his prerogative. I get that, but just leave it alone. Leave it. It was fine the way it was.
Yeah,
leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Okay.
That's another thing that Disney said that they were going to do when they first obtained the rights to Star Wars is they were going to release the original pre-special edition cuts.
Have they done that yet?
They have not done that yet, but I intended on bringing it upstairs because I was going to show you on camera. I have an original VHS box set from the early 80s that has A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Pre-THX, special edition, still in the plastic. Never been opened, never been watched.
Damn, you gotta.
Yes.
I wonder if this tape's still work. I mean, this tape's haven't ran at all.
I keep them in a box in a closet, man. They do not see the light of day. They are tucked away.
But I liked how I mentioned the CGI Jabba the Hutt, but there was no comment. I think you're looking for the producer's name.
No, what
do you think about that?
That's Rick McCallum again. Fuck Rick McCallum. The CGI Jabba the Hutt. I remember seeing that scene before the CGI Jabba the Hutt. They just had like a really fat guy stand in as Jabba the Hutt before they knew what Jabba the Hutt was going to look like. That even in 1996 or 7, whenever that was, the whole world was going crazy for CGI at the time. Blame Jurassic Park once again. That didn't look good back then. That didn't look good.
I mean, Jurassic Park looked good, but there's a lot of movies are doing that, and the CGI kind of it doesn't look good. There's a lot of movies during that time that they had higher, expectations. They didn't really have the technology to make it work. Think of like Spawn, Okay.
Yeah, it was
nothing looked good in Spawn.
Oh my god!
But I'll still watch that
Oh
movie.
my god! You know what's worse than Spawn is that like techno mixed Metallica for whom the bell tolls that's on the soundtrack. That's even worse than the movie.
Oh shit!
That's just if you've never heard that, man, seek it out, and it'll summon the end of the world if you listen to it. It's bad. Metallica, Stranger Things. Anyway, we're not going there either.
All right, but now that we're in A New Hope, because really my thing about the Star Wars movies, okay, is that fine, they're good for like popcorn movies, whatever, but they're not good quality movies, good quality story. It's all like, it's not even sci-fi. It's sci-fantasy. It's like space wizards and things that don't make any sense, would never make any sense, like little lightsabers and things. They look cool, but like whatever. But even that, even if you set that aside, the things that happen in its story just don't make any sense. Wouldn't be reasonable. Like, you're telling me that when I guess R2D2 and the other robot C3PO, when they were like leaving the ship, that the Empire couldn't fire upon that thing. They couldn't fire upon the escape pod because there's no life there. Let's not waste our lasers. Like, you could have just shot.
Hey,
you are attacking an ambassador ship. You should be shooting at every freaking thing that's going. Just why?
I was in the military, and we were lazy as fuck.
Yeah, were you too lazy where you wouldn't press a button? What? It's a button. Just press a button and shoot that thing.
How many times were people, just soldiers laying out in the desert and been like, fuck it. I mean, it happened.
That would have been better. That would have been better. But it kind of looked like someone was looking at it like he was going to fire, and the other guy, I guess, who's above him was like, nah, don't even bother. Like,
dude, I would pay Lucasfilm. I would pay Lucasfilm my own money to go back right now and like add a line from the 1977 film where like that Imperial officer just goes, fuck it.
Yeah, see,
I'd use my own money for that.
See, with some better writing, you can make that scene kind of more believable. Like, we're not going to even waste our time. There's nothing there. Or
Star Wars is the hero's journey. It is the standard Mad Libs fill in the blank hero's journey. It's been redone through every genre, through every type of character, over and over again, and they're still doing it today. Hero's journey, like, boy who comes from nothing, is a nobody, goes forth, finds himself, finds the mentor, does great things. I mean, it's been done over and over again. It's just in 1977, the nerd herd had never seen anything like it, and it just blew their goddamn minds, and that carried on through their kids, and it's carried on through their kids, and if we're doing our jobs right, it's carrying on to the next generation of kids. It's a big galaxy. We'll get there. We'll get there. We got to get to the sequel trilogy before we have that conversation.
Yeah, I get the hero's journey thing, which is fine. I mean, it's kind of a trope, but I mean, it works. It's a story that works. It's just how you tell it. But my problem with the Star Wars universe, Star Wars movies, in ways, as far as the movies go, is that the Empire, this enemy force, are just completely incompetent and stupid. Like it makes you wonder how in the world they were actually able to seize power and control in the first place. Because everything they do, if you watch New Hope again, everything they do, like, it baffles your mind. Like, so if they know the droids are there, and they find out that eventually they find out that it's at Ben's place or whatever, at the uncle's place. So instead of stationing guards at the uncle's place to ambush Luke when he comes back, they had to go, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to kill everybody. We're just going to murder everybody.
But did you pay attention to the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine? It's the same thing. I mean, the Russians, they had the numbers, they had all the big scary weaponry and everything, and then come to find out, a group's small little pockets of people that were defending their homes.
But Ukraine's losing, though.
Yeah, they're losing now. And I think that has a lot to do with the West trying to intervene a lot. But in the beginning, in the first couple of months of that conflict, I mean, my God, the Russians, no matter what type of weaponry they had, no matter the numbers they had, they're getting their asses handed to them. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with the Imperials. They had numbers. And they had a big, giant deathticle that was blowing up planets. And these little people that just got tired of their bullshit found a weakness and exploited it and blew the damn thing up.
Well, I'm thinking of another movie. Another movie comes to mind. Oh shit. Oh well, it was in my mind. Now it's gone. Oh wait. I did have it on my mind, but now it is gone. Inglourious Bastards. Okay.
Right.
Because I'm imagining the Empire looking for these droids like Anansi would look for Jews. Okay. So I would imagine that they would find out where they are, where they probably are. Okay. They find out that it's at this uncle's place. Okay. All right. Well, question him, everything. Okay. Who's this Luke guy? Luke had these droids? Who's Luke to you? Oh, Luke, he lives here? Oh, so he's going to be coming back. Okay. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to all sit here. We're going to wait for him to come back. Okay. You're going to pretend that everything's normal, actually. And, just wait for Luke to come back with the droids, and then it's done. And then there's no more movie. It's like R2-D2, C-3PO are seized, and it's like Luke is dead, and then Empire wins but no, they have to be incompetent to be like, what we're going to do instead of finding out who this Luke guy is, everything about him, all this stuff, we're just going to murder, not ask any questions. And didn't they try to make it seem like it was like the Sandwalkers or
soldiers are only as good as their leader.
Yeah, but they have,
soldiers are only as good as their leader. And, I don't want to call names.
I guess, yeah. I mean, they're all incompetent leaders. Even, what was it? In Empire Strikes Back. Good movie.
Which is the best of the saga.
It's one that, definitely is.
Empire Strikes Back, in my mind, may be the greatest film ever made. Definitely the greatest sequel ever made.
I like Tombstone. Tombstone's a really good movie. Tombstone is a really good movie.
There's not a sequel. There's not a sequel to Tombstone.
You don't need a sequel. Don't make a sequel to Tombstone. You don't need it. It's done. It's done.
I didn't think we needed a sequel to Top Gun until I saw Maverick.
Oh, but Maverick is great. Maverick is 100% fantastic.
Totally.
It takes everything Top Gun did, but makes it even better.
I thought you were going to try to defend Boondock Saints 2 there for a second, but
no, Boondock Saints 2 is horrible. Boondock Saints 1 is great. Second one,
Empire Strikes Back in was it 79? I think it was 79 or 80. Oh man, God, I'm getting old. I don't know. I remember the whole, I'm your father twist. Blew people's minds so much that they have used that thing over and over in just about every franchise. But I mean, Star Wars was the first place that me and most people I know ever saw that. Your hero and the biggest, baddest motherfucker in the entire galaxy, you find out that that's Dad. I mean,
that's crazy.
Blew people's mind. And then they introduced the slickest, baddest motherfucker in all of sci-fi, Lando Calrissian. Come on, man. Empire Strikes Back is gold. I mean, I would almost, if you had to like bring somebody from another time period to our time period, and you've only got like 2 hours with them and they want to see a film, you want to show them the one film that's going to make them go, you know what, maybe I want to stay here. That'll be Empire Strikes Back.
It would probably be on my list too, out of the Star Wars movies. And I'm here to say Star Wars movies suck, but it's a good one. It is a good one. All right, it is good. All right.
They suck compared to what?
They suck compared to like The Good and Bad, the Ugly, Tombstone, even high.
You like westerns.
There's westerns. Top Gun Maverick is a much more better film, but
you said you've seen Solo, right? Solo is basically a space western.
Yeah. I don't really watch all of Solo, actually. I watched part of
Yeah.
it and then it stopped. And then
Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hater tots. I mean the fandom, the toxic fandom out there wants you to think that was the worst thing Star Wars
I
has
judge
ever
it
done.
for myself. I watch it if it is good. I think I was distracted that night. I watched Rogue One. I thought Rogue One is fine as a standalone movie. Though
Yes.
I watched that, and like I said, my favorite game is Dark Forces. It only took one person. Now it's the first level to get the Death Star plans.
Kyle's
Oh, this is the
guitar.
first stage? Okay. Son of a bitch. And I was watching Rogue One. It's like, wait, they went through all this effort? Man, Dark Forces made it look so easy. Okay.
Yeah, people talk about what the greatest Star Wars game that ever was. I mean, they'll argue and bitch, but no one ever says Jedi Outcast. And that was what? That was kind of like Dark Forces Part 3.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Yeah, the lightsaber mechanics in that game were boss. I mean, you could just parry with people and fight the same character for like 5 minutes straight.
See, I had that
you
one
would land a
installed. I
blow.
just haven't really played it. I know it's an old game.
That one's by far my favorite. I had it on GameCube. It's totally worth it. I got it on Steam, and for some reason I couldn't get it to load up. So I got it in like a Steam collection of all those Dark Forces game, and I couldn't get that one to work. And that was the only reason I bought the collection to begin with.
Let's see. Well, going back on the topic here, yeah, my thing here is that the Star Wars movies, like I said, they're like popcorn thrillers, filler stuff. It's like I said, paint by numbers, like cartoon villain. I get it's like the hero's journey, but like the enemies are like, it's so silly. Even Empire Strikes Back. Why in the world did they start so far away from the base with the slowest piece of shit possible? They have spaceships, right? They have Star Destroyers. They could have landed anywhere. They could have landed their forces anywhere. In fact, they could have had two fronts. They could have done anything different, but they had the slowest things.
See, you could do this. You could do this to all
possible.
films. You could do this to every single film out there.
You could, but in the Star Wars universe, the Star Wars story,
why didn't Jason Voorhees wait until like all the camp counselors are asleep?
Well, he's not. I mean, Jason Voorhees' mom, or in the first one, I was what?
Or in any movie, in any slasher movie, why doesn't the villain just wait until they're asleep?
Well, he's one crazy zombie guy. He's one crazy zombie guy with the urge to kill everything there that's running around in panties.
Why chase him? Why chase him?
He likes to chase.
Why
why
wait till they're having sex? Why wait until there's a chance for one of them to like kill you until the next one?
He's horrified. He has PTSD. When they have sex, it reminds him when they neglected him and he drowned. Okay, that's what happens. It's like, but we were talking about the Empire. There's supposed to be this menacing force, right? Like this all-powerful.
They're not menacing. They just have big numbers.
But
got big numbers.
They're supposed to have everything in control, pretty much, and they're going to just go at the slowest fleet. They could land anywhere, start anywhere, but they do this super slow approach.
Look,
it's like, okay,
the United States military is no different, man. Some of the dumbest people I ever met were in the United States military. Seriously, and that's coming from a veteran right here. I mean, they had the numbers, like and it was actually said. Grand Moff Tarkin said it in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. He said, everybody's like, oh, what about the bureaucracy? What about, how are we going to control the population? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, fear will keep the people in line. And people are scared of numbers. Like that's what they had. They had numbers. And not only did they have numbers, they had like faceless numbers. They all had helmets on. Just people were scared of them. So
they have a vast military, large numbers, but they're just incompetent. Are they like
they are every military on a planet in real life is no different. They got numbers, but they're all incompetent. If they were good at something, they wouldn't have been in the fucking military to begin with.
Well, I mean, eventually the numbers will overpower if they have the power to back.
Yeah,
like
Russia
absolutely.
Ukraine. Yeah, that's how that thing's going in the Ukraine right now. Just a constant pelting by numbers. if the situation were a little bit different, I mean, the Russians would have been, well, like they were in the beginning. They were chased back across the border with a tail between their legs.
Hmm.
Then the capitalists get involved and they fuel the fire, and blah 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 politics. That's another episode in itself too.
Politician, bankers, they will make some money there.
I'll
Okay.
tell you what, you want to put my wife on this podcast? She can argue politics.
No. We'll stick to Star Wars for right now. All right. Okay. Now, obviously, in the Star Wars movies, they weren't really thinking long term or long game as far as force powers go, because in the new trilogy, you have Rey being able to stop a cargo ship from leaving, and Darth Vader couldn't do that when the Millennium Falcon was leaving. He could have, right? Like, if that was a power possible.
Darth Vader just did that 2 weeks ago. I watched it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Technically, he did. So why didn't he do it then? Why didn't he do it then?
I don't know. Why?
See, they're not thinking.
Go back to the Phantom Menace when
like
Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi took off running really fast to get away from the battle droids. Why hasn't any other Jedi done that since, except in the video games? Maybe some of the comics. But in the films, why hasn't any other Jedi done that since, man? I don't know. It's writing. It's writing. It's, like I said, why doesn't Jason Voorhees kill people in their sleep?
Well, he does when they're sleeping. I mean, when they're making love, when they're fucking. When they're in bed.
Friday the 13th could be over in 5 minutes if you because they're all sleeping.
It could be.
They're all sleeping in the same house. They're in the counselor's house. You just walk in there, boop, 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 stab them all in their sleep. Done. Roll credits.
But then they start with, we got to fight our sleep. We got to stay awake as much as possible. See, they have kind of rules. The problem with those movies is like they try to establish rules, right, and they try to adhere to it. Star Wars, I don't think they're adhering to any rules. In fact, they're like making things up as they go, which then later on be like, okay, well, that's an interesting force power. How come you didn't use that then? That's weird. Yeah, you'd be like, Darth Vader just wanted him to go get away. Darth Vader likes to chase. He wants to chase him.
I mean, we live in the time right now of female empowerment. Lucasfilm is ran by a very left-wing woman that has a lot of aspirations for a lot of up-and-coming young girls, and she's trying to bring women into the Star Wars franchise because Star Wars has always been something for the boys.
Oh,
there's 50.
I haven't started how Ray's a Mary Sue.
there's 50% of your customer base out there is women. We're only getting half the money that we could get. So let's see what we can do to try and bring the wives and the girlfriends and the young girls and everything into this. And I mean, it's working. And men hate it. It pisses a lot of the old nerds off, man. But
one reason I did, okay, for the new trilogy, I rewatched the Force Awakens and Last Jedi, and then I watched Rise of the Skywalker for the first time a couple weeks ago. And when people were saying, "Oh, Ray's a Mary Sue," whatever, I was like, I don't know. I rewatched, like I said, I watched it. I have to say, dude, I think they're right. I think they're 100% right. Like, she doesn't seem to have any trials or have to learn her force powers or anything. She's not really challenged the same way any other characters are. It's like she does nothing wrong. In fact, she knows how to do everything. She can do everything on her own. She doesn't need any.
That is not something that is just only in Star Wars. What about Daenerys in Game of Thrones? She is Rey in a different set of clothes. What about? Oh, geez, did you happen to catch that 1883 series with Tim McGraw and Sam Elliott and all them? It was I guess the Old West series of Yellowstone, like the prequel series to Yellowstone. The main character in that was the same thing. I mean, she went from whiny little girl to Annie Oakley in just a matter of episodes. I mean, that's the way things are being written right now.
Yeah,
And
but to me, they don't seem like they create really good characters. In fact, if anything, it's kind of like, why do you need everybody else if you could do things on your, like, you could, like, the first time you meet Rey, the first movie, like Force Awakens, not only can she fly the Millennium Falcon, but she could fly it very, very well, extremely well. It's like,
yeah, well,
come on now.
we don't. I mean, but she had actually been in the ship before. I mean, she even mentions it. She had been in the ship before. She had flown before. We didn't know when we met Rey. We didn't know a damn thing about her, where she came from, what her experiences were. But if you go back to when you first meet Luke Skywalker in 1977 in Episode 4, this whiny little fucking teenager in the desert, he meets this old man for the first time that mentions the Force, and he's like, "The Force?" And Ben Kenobi has to explain to him what the hell the Force is. And by the end of that movie, he blows up the goddamn Death Star. He's using the Force and everything to talk to Force ghosts and everything. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. But people don't want to accept it.
It's not really the same thing though, because Luke goes through trials where he loses people. He loses family members. He even loses limbs, literally limbs.
Luke jumped around in the swamp with a Muppet on his back and fought Darth Vader 5 minutes after that. It's the same thing. People just don't want to accept it.
It's not the same thing. Rey didn't even lose a hand. I mean, Rey.
Congratulations, she's a winner.
Like, she flew the Millennium Falcon better. She flew the Millennium Falcon better than Solo.
she's like one of the only people who ever wielded a lightsaber that didn't lose a limb. Congratulations, you win.
Oh man, yeah, like she flew the Millennium Falcon better than Solo. Like she didn't lose anything. Like she was an orphan, just stranded on a desert on Tatooine or whatever. What was she on? What was the planet?
Jakku. Planet Jakku.
Which is kind of like Tatooine too, because another reason why I think Star Wars is kind of bad movies is that they're kind of bankrupt, creatively bankrupt. They're like, oh, let's redo A New Hope, let's make it again. Essentially, that's kind of what they did with Force Awakens.
Yeah, I mean, they took J.J. Abrams took the safe route, because there were a lot of uproar about the prequels when they came out between 1999 and 2005. Which, of course, that is all quieted down now since Disney has taken over Star Wars and they've started all the Star Wars series and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and they've finally accepted Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker character, and just everybody is just so in love with the prequels right now. And 10 years from now, everybody's going to be in love with the sequel trilogy too.
I think so.
I remember it well, and I long for these days. I remember when the original Star Wars trilogy, it was an insider thing. It was a nerd thing. It was something that you talked about in whispers, and it was how you identified who your friends were. If you made a Star Wars reference and someone picked up on it, that was your friend. But then the prequels came out and they marketed the hell out of it, and the whole world went Star Wars crazy, and it was no longer an underground thing. I mean, it was popular. It made shit tons of money. But I mean, it wasn't going to get you laid, man. I mean, just all through high school, I just remember, if you liked Star Wars, you were a fucking nerd, and that was how shit was in the 80s and early 90s. If you liked Star
that was
Wars,
fine then too. I think Star Wars going mainstream was actually to his detriment. I mean, I think Star Wars.
Now that I will agree with. I agree with that, because I remember the days when you met people and they were very knowledgeable about like Star Wars lore as you were, and it was almost like falling in love. It was like, you could sit and just talk about random made up shit with somebody on into the night, and that was like your best friend in the whole damn world. And now Star Wars is everywhere we look. The fan base has spread all over the world, and when just it's like an army full of idiots. The more fans you create, the more haters you create, and that's where the toxic fan base comes in, and that's what's wrong with Star Wars right now. It's what's wrong with everything that has a group.
Well, I think the criticism is warranted, though, especially towards the sequel trilogy, and there's a lot of criticism, even towards.
But ask a child. Ask a child. I mean, we were kids during the original trilogy. I mean, I was a kid during the original trilogy. You were kind of young. You were a teenager during the prequels. My son was really young during the prequels, but like, you know, where a lot of people have talked shit on the prequels over the years, my son's generation, they hold that in higher regard than they do the original trilogy, because that's their movies. So if you ask a bunch of kids today what they think about the sequel trilogy, and I've heard them say this, they love the sequel trilogy more than they love the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy. It's generational. It's
that doesn't
it's
speak,
generational.
That doesn't speak well for the new generation, that current generation. And I don't know, like, let's take what was it, Rise of the Skywalker. When the Emperor comes back and he's there, I'm like, okay, we're doing this again. They're bringing up the Emperor again. Okay, we're doing this.
I mean, Sheev Palpatine is one of the greatest villains of all time, and the fact that they didn't, like, if that bothers me too. That does bother me too, how he just suddenly came back. But if they didn't have to course correct so much from The Last Jedi, and again, the only reason that they were doing it, the only reason they were doing any course correction at all, is to shut the toxic fan base up. If those people would just shut up for 5 minutes, I mean, it's so bad. Disney went into panic mode. You know, they had Rian Johnson set for his own trilogy. They had Colin Trevorrow was going to direct episode 9. They were going to have a different director for each of the sequel movies, just like they did the original trilogy. There was a different director for each movie. There was George Lucas with episode 4. There was Irvin Kershner, I think I'm saying that right, with Empire Strikes Back. There was Richard Marquand with Return of the Jedi. It was gonna be like that. It was gonna be J.J. Abrams for episode 7, Rian Johnson for episode 8, Colin Trevorrow with episode 9. And Disney went into panic mode because the public did not like Last Jedi. I love Last Jedi. If you take a couple of scenes, yes, if you take a couple of scenes out of that film, it's a great film. Where in the hell do you take a franchise 8 movies in? What you do is you listen to what all the fans are saying they think is going to happen and do the exact fucking opposite. And it had a different effect.
Last Jedi is the one. That's the one that started with the. There was like this battle. This Asian chick was in the bomber thing. She dies or something, and the bombs drop in space. I don't know how the gravity's supposed to work. Or they're supposed to just fall.
All right, now if you're going to be that way, then we'll just take it all the way back to the beginning. How is there fire in space? How are things exploding?
Well,
in space?
it's like it's sci-fi fantasy. You know, it's not even.
It's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And if you have to look at it with that mindset for the original trilogy, that has to carry over into the sequel trilogy too. So let's not talk about gravity and bombs.
I mean, it makes sense though. Why do that? They could have just shot it like a laser cannon. Well, yeah. Why did they just have a laser pointed down? Just you can point a laser in any direction. Just point a laser down.
It was
shoot.
Something that they hadn't done yet.
It's weird, you know.
It's like we're 8 movies in. Let's do shit that we haven't done yet. So there were space bombs, and then midway through it, they rode space horses. But there were key scenes. There were key scenes in that film, like the way that the movie opened with Poe Dameron and the X-wing facing off against all those Star Destroyers, and he's like making fun of General Hux. That shit was funny. All right, and then you got Luke Skywalker. Everybody was so pissed off that he's
garbage now. Like Luke Skywalker.
Think about it, man.
He was
think about it. I mean, you were like, yes, you were the Superman of the Star Wars galaxy, and you failed. I would be embarrassed as fuck. I'd be hiding out in a hut too. I mean, I can relate.
I don't see Luke being driven to try to kill. I don't see Luke being driven to try to kill. What's his name? Shit.
Hey man, that shit's been happening since the Bible.
No, but even Luke's character from the original trilogy, he's so full of hope and like he's the light.
I was like, I can't imagine that an uncle's gonna kill his nephew. All right, Cain and Abel, whatever.
I mean, the way they did Luke was, I thought, was a complete, disservice there. But
it just I can relate as someone who an old soldier who is aging more every day. I related to that, and a lot of people didn't. Maybe a lot of people haven't been in my shoes, but I related to that. And then they were mad about how the scene where, like, of course you don't know it at the time that Luke is just like force projecting himself across the galaxy, but that showdown scene between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker, shit, that was magic, man. The tension in that scene was magic. I liked The Last Jedi a lot. And I didn't see. There were a couple of things I didn't like about it. The whole Mary Poppins thing with
yeah,
Princess Leia.
I was about to bring that up. That was like, make a decision. If you're gonna kill off a character, kill off a character. Like, you could have just killed her off.
When I saw it in the theater, Me and my son, Anakin, me and my son saw it in the theater. I was like, holy shit, that's how she's gonna go, because she had already died. Like, in real life, she had already died, and we were wondering how they were gonna write her out of the story. And when she flew through space, I'm like, that was your opportunity right there. That was your opportunity for like one of those gasp moments where you could have killed her off and done her justice. I mean, that makes Kylo Ren look. I mean, he's already killed his dad. Now he
killed his mom.
He inadvertently killed his mom. But Kathleen Kennedy was like, no. Episode 9 is supposed to be Leia's movie, because Han got his movie, and then Luke got his movie, and Episode 9 was going to be Leia's movie. So we have to find someone to do it. So I'm gonna have to tell Ryan Johnson that he's not allowed to touch any more Star Wars, and I'm gonna have to tell Colin Trevorrow to go play with his dinosaurs again, and I'm gonna bring back Yes Man J.J. Abrams to I mean, I love what Disney Plus is doing with Star Wars in the series right now, because you've got Dave Filoni and the Marvel dude, Kevin, is it Feige? Is that how you say his name? Kevin Feige and Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is responsible for the animated series The Clone Wars. He's responsible for the animated series Rebels. Both of those series are top fucking notch. If you haven't done that deep dive into Star Wars lore and watched those series, they're totally worth it, man. They are totally worth it. But what they're doing with The Mandalorian... They also did The
Mandalorian, which is the most recent thing of Star Wars that I actually liked.
Yeah.
And...
But those are even different directors. Those are different directors doing each episode. You got Feige will do one. You got Filoni will do one. Bryce Dallas Howard.
But there's a plan, though. They have a plan for the whole thing. They do have a plan, and that's probably what they should have done with the original. What they should have done with the original planning of the sequel trilogy is come together and have an overarching plan so that it's cohesive and makes sense.
Yeah, that was the downfall of the sequel trilogy, was the fact that, I mean, not only did they not have a plan from the beginning, but they lied about it. Yeah. Kathleen Kennedy had said on several occasions, "Oh, this was the plan from the beginning," and J.J. Abrams came out later and said, "Nah, nobody knew what the fuck was going on from one movie to the next." Just until Filoni got involved, I think it was a cash grab. There are several things I like about the sequel trilogy, and I mean, they're canon. I know there's a lot of talk on the internet, there's a petition, they're gonna retcon the sequel trilogy. That's bullshit. I mean,
you don't think that's true?
Of those movies, it is not true. All three of those movies,
I would be surprised if they did. If they do, I mean,
the toxic fan base is a minority, but it's a vocal minority.
I mean, they kind of bring up good, valid points, though. And well, let's talk about how was it?
They do, but Disney is not going to take
Rise of the Skywalker.
They're not going. Rise of the Skywalker. Take billion-dollar films. They're not going to retcon billion-dollar films because a vocal minority of the fan base got their panties in a wad. So they're just not going to do it. All three of those films, no matter what you think about them, made over $1 billion.
Now, in Rise of the Skywalker, that movie goes so fast, and everything it does, from scene to scene to scene to scene, there's like no time to process anything. In fact, if anything, it's like you don't like if you miss something, you kind of like, what just happened? Like they were here.
Yeah.
Now they're there, and it's like even the characters don't have time to really give any sort
Hollywood
of emotion
is
or
obsessed
act.
with trilogies. Hollywood is obsessed with trilogies.
That's like,
I mean, what would be the problem with splitting Rise of Skywalker into 2 films? They did it with Harry Potter. They did the last Harry Potter. Yeah, they did that with the last Harry Potter. You know, they had the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, and they did that with Twilight, even though it wasn't fucking necessary. Fuck that shit. They did it with the Hunger Games. They split the last book of all of those series into 2 films. Mm-hmm. It was a cash grab, but with Star Wars, I mean, I'm sure there was enough they cut out of those films to make a completely different film.
I mean, they could. And Star Wars itself is pretty much a cash grab at this point. I mean, they could do that.
Hollywood is obsessed with trilogies, though. They're obsessed with the number 3. Like humanity has been obsessed with the number 3 since the dawn of time, because it goes back to biblical shit.
The Trinity, the Holy Trinity. You gotta have 3. You go even comedy. You gotta have the rule of 3. But
you go back and you watch cartoons from the 1930s when they pull off a gag. They always pull it off 3 times. If you go back like the cartoons I'm talking about, like you ever played Cuphead, like the animations that look like that. They always do things in threes. Yeah.
So when I was watching Rise of the Skywalker, dude,
you didn't know this was going to get this deep, did you?
No. And I finally watched Rise of the Skywalker, right, to prepare for this, and I almost stopped. I almost rage quit the moment the Emperor, like he pretty much snapped his finger, and all these Star Destroyers came out from the lake. Now I heard about this. I was like, "There's no fucking way that happens. There's no way." 500 or how many Star Destroyers with like Death Star cannons just come out from the ground, and they do though. They do. He literally conjures an army of. Please tell me they're dead.
Because apparently the J.J. Abrams backstory is that Palpatine never died in Return of the Jedi, and he died in Return of the Jedi, but there was cloning. You know, we knew the Sith was involved with the cloning all the way back from Attack of the Clones. That Palpatine is a clone of his former self. Like basically, they were trying to perfect another body for him for his essence to go into. And like Snoke from Episode 7 and Episode 8, they were like failed Palpatine clones. There was all kinds of dark shit. Like I recently rewatched Rise of Skywalker, and I saw it in the theater the night it came out, and I had COVID. I didn't even COVID wasn't even a thing yet over here in this country, but I had it, and I didn't know it. I was at Alamo Drafthouse giving it to the whole damn theater that night, but I slept through it because I was so sick. I just remember falling asleep. My son was about to leave for the Army, and we walk out of the theater, and he's like, "Well, what'd you think about it?" Because he was excited about it. Once again, this younger generation, they love the sequel trilogy. And I'm like, I'm not sure. I need to see it again. So, I got it at home, and I've watched it over and over again. And, in the beginning, I'm like, screw this. Oh God, this was all retcon and damage control. And the more I watch it, the more the story makes sense. But they could have made damn near a horror story out of that film if they wanted to. And they just chose not to. The parts of that film with Palpatine in it are creepy as hell, but the way that they explained his return is what just causes a lot of people to rage quit that film, because the way they explain his return is somehow Palpatine returned,
and literally that's what they say.
That's all. I mean, it's almost like J.J. Abrams was over there just counting $100 bills and just told, say whatever the fuck you want at this point. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good stuff in that film that is dragged down by the toxic vocal minority.
I thought if the Emperor like conjured this force, it would have been cool to see how this. You see like the red stormtroopers, but you only see them for that battle. It'd be kind of cool if they made it 2 movies and like the conjured force is actually kind of dead. It like plays like some dark force, dark side necro magic shit, whatever.
Right.
Like maybe the Star Destroyers are kind of like decrepit, or like they've been. I don't know. But if anything, they look like they're kept up and they're actually neat and clean. But they've been.
Yeah.
submerged
Well,
in the ground for all that
we
time.
don't know what was. We don't know what was under that ice. It could have been force shields, like in the Gungan city, all the way back in the Phantom Menace. We don't know because they didn't bother to show us. Just
Right.
like apparently Palpatine, they transferred his essence into these clones that he had been hiding on Exegol, this Sith world that had been hidden right after Return of the Jedi when Vader offed him. And this preparation had been going on ever since. That would have been fine. That would have been believable if you would have just taken the time to explain it. People go to the movies, they want to be entertained. They don't want to read books, so they go to movies to be entertained. And sometimes you have to spoon feed people art.
Yeah. What about that? What about that Force? What about the Force Skype call? That I'm blanking on his name. The Darth Vader Jr., the son.
Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is the best thing about the sequel trilogy.
He does Skype Force calls with Ren or with Rey. Okay, and
that's a totally different. That's a different take on anything that they had ever done before, and I thought that was pretty fucking cool, actually.
But doesn't that mean he could at any time use that? So he doesn't actually have to fly out to find her. He could just call her up, force call, and then try to.
It goes back.
Fight her.
It goes all the way back to the Phantom Menace. Why hasn't any Jedi since the Phantom Menace used their force speed to get away from shit?
It's about convenience. It's about convenience and kind of sloppy writing, and
if you go into the lore, you deep dive into nerddom here. Let's pretend we're all virgins again, just for 5 seconds, and hear me out. There's a lot of nerds over the years that have been discussing that force speed thing, and the force is something that is controlled by concentration. So you're concentrating on it. You're going to do it. That's fine. In the heat of the moment, are you going to be able to concentrate on it? Did you forget you could even do it? Maybe. Who knows? It's man. In the end, it's all fantasy, and we're all horrible people for trying to pick it apart.
Well, this is what we do. This is fun. It's kind of picking apart these movies, but I think these movies, like I said, they're fine to watch for whatever. They're kind of entertaining. The space battles are kind of cool to watch. I think Han Solo's a cool character. Luke's cool. We kind of glossed over Return of the Jedi. We could have went into all sorts of Jabba the Hutt stuff and Ewok stuff. We're kind of approaching time here. But I think overall, the Star Wars movies suck. And I presented my stuff. I'll put a poll, see if people agree or disagree. Miller,
yes,
present your claim again.
My claim is that there's no such thing as a bad Star Wars movie. Some are just better than others. Throw the Bible to the side. It's the greatest story ever told.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap up this rant and chill. And Mr. Miller, thank you so much for coming on the show. Talk about this.
Yeah, buddy.
I actually like Miller.
Yes.
He's a horror author. Okay. We had some fun arguing this stuff. That's
absolutely. This was a great time. This is the best time I've had in quite a while.
All right, guys. Y'all take it easy.
All right. Later.